This is
Okay,
Tabletop
theater
Theater
conversation,
Conversation.
and this is February 20th, the year 2022.
And we're joined by our whole family today
Mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
we thought this would be fun because we on Sundays do menu planning. We
Mm-hmm.
have breakfast together, and then we all sit down and sink into the week. And we start out with a Kuan Yin. Suzanne, you want to read that?
I do. So, our Kuan Yin that's going to guide the menu and what we're assimilating this week is number 7. Piercing the sight with the acceptance of feelings that mark the vision with clarity is what is now moving. See the acceptance as a visionary reality. Protection.
Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
what it's about
That's-
this week.
Yeah.
A good one.
And so we take that as out of the Kuan Yin Oracle, and we see food as consciousness. So it's an opportunity. We eat 3 times a day or more, and so we come into looking and reminding ourselves about the consciousness we're seeking it.
Mm-hmm.
So we pick the food that'll help us actually assimilate the consciousness that we're moving into every single week and every day. And today we have we're planning the menu, but we have special needs, and that's what we have to plan around. And part of the special needs is that right now we need to eat light, and so this helps with digestion.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we need the preparation to be simple and lighter because Suzanne is dealing with some reoccurring vertigo that she has, um, uh, that she deals with in her life. And so we have to honor that. And even though she has a wonderful priestess that helps her, her partner
Suzette.
Christina, it's like they have a lot of other things that they do in the day, although they are the ones that create and work with the food that we eat and the consciousness of it and how they prepare it. So the menu, trying to make it light, and we also have to work with what we have available
Right.
in the refrigerator and in the freezers, and that things that we pre-prepared and drop them into are different things like a turkey that we've already cooked, and we have different forms of turkey that can be used for different menu planning.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go through our cellar practically to see what we have stored
Yeah.
and utilize that so it doesn't go out of date. And then we have a budget that we have to work with, and that budget is it's not very it's not as flexible as one would like. So we stay within its easy flexibility,
Right.
and so those are a lot of things to take in. And then we're
Yes.
also taking in the consciousness expansion that we're going through during each week because that is a big focus. It's our
Mhm.
work. It's part of our work. And it's how do you make your consciousness part of your everyday life? It's it's not something you just study or you just pray or you just go to church or for it's a you take it home,
Yeah.
you live with it. So that is part of our practice. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, so this week we're working with the consciousness of the menu, and that menu evidently fits in. We can find it. It will fit in our needs. So Suzanne was just talking about. We were talking about if you're fixing a dish and you're thinking, well, I don't know if we can make it that day, but I would like to. I'd like to be able to make it. And this week is not the week to do that. Not the week where you have vertigo, where you could get spinny in no time, and
No,
so it's not a week also that you're constantly. We laughed about it, but it's like each day. Are you my mommy? Are you my mommy? And you're trying to find the day that the thing that you want to make on this other day, where you could somehow get the
Manage to
streak,
make it.
manage to make it on some day. And that's more stress, and we a lot of times are not attuned to that.
No, I know I haven't been.
Yeah, you want to
A lot.
speak on that?
Yeah, it's like a lot of things, especially moving with this VOR and vertigo that I struggle with since my stroke. I have gone to a position of trying to see what I still can do or what I still can manage to do or how I can still function with it instead of, and with me, working with food is a way that I have found to integrate my consciousness and where I'm going with it. And so a lot of times I was finding myself trying to reach for the food that I wanted to make, that in my mind and in my heart I thought would be a wonderful thing to nurture the family and do. But as Suzanne so eloquently described, it's like the whole week I'm trying to find where I can manage to do that. Where can I function enough that I could do it and so I'm constantly reaching for the food instead of allowing the food to reach for me. And that is a whole other shift in consciousness to integrate and to recognize how we can do that in all aspects of our life. And one of the coolest things for me is that, you know, that's one way that I work with my spirituality, but that's also, it's been modeled by us as a family using our menu planning to integrate consciousness that we're all wanting to move and shift through our menu planning and our assimilatory process. So it's me personally working with it, but then also universally and with us as a family, and using this time to do it.
And the consciousness we want to unfold.
Exactly. And the food becomes a way that we have to do. Like you
Yes.
said, every day we have to eat, and every week we have to have a menu to know what to buy and what we're going to eat. So we use that as our vehicle to explore and to find our consciousness that we're reaching for.
Oh, I
And
love
I just
that.
and it's been such a gift to me. And you know, we run into stumbling blocks, it's a perfect way for me to find where I still have imprints or limitations or blocks that I really don't want to have in my everyday life. But it'll show up in food. It'll show up where I have a resistance to something that's going to come up on the menu that I either don't want to make it. So I have to look at, well, what is it about the essence of that food? Is it the process? Is it the food itself? Is it the ingredient? Is it the money that it takes to make that food or buy that food? Where is it? Or the time and energy it's going to take to make that food. So where is it that I have a resistance? Where is it? So it shows up for me so that I can look at it and take care of it. And it's one of the fastest ways and greatest gifts of a way to move consciousness.
Because it's an art form for you,
Yeah.
so it is a love.
It is.
Yeah. And I think it's so also, I want to ask Christina, is Christina, when she came into our family, she worked in the healing field, but also her great love was actually playing music and intuitive music, and also making collage and artistry too. But it's so, in this time, she, as your partner, has moved into the kitchen with you, which she was not as familiar. But you know, we were so lucky because she was good at hors d'oeuvres, and we never had the luxury of hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
And Christina, she may not have cooked the big stuff, but she knew how to cook all those little things, and it was playful.
It's part of breaking it down.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's playful. But what's it been for you to come into the kitchen and work with something beyond hors d'oeuvres?
It's actually it's been amazing to see all the levels and layers involved with each meal and each process, and you know, from making a cheese sauce and all the components to that, and then you know, just rolling and folding things into each other, and having things you know, just be like a chemistry of things mixing together, and watching a transformation happen in this pot right in front of your eyes, and then be able to make things that swirl and come together, and it's been amazing, from like bread kneading the dough,
she is
and
fabulous
you know,
at kneading.
and just being able to really just watch how air, you know, pressing air into something, like it's very elemental.
Well, it's also like
know, it's
what
like-
you do with people.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
As an occupational
That's true.
therapist, you are needing
That's true.
their body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like listening to the process inside the kitchen too, like
Yeah.
going from listening to people to listening to the conversation that happens between us and also between the food and the recipes, the history of the recipes,
And
there's-
adapting.
and adapting, modifying.
You've brought a fluidity to me in the
Because
kitchen.
she's music.
And she's water. Yeah. And
She's
so-
music and she flows.
Yes. And so,
So
that's
the
helped
whole
my
process with
cooking.
music is
Yeah.
similar to the process with cooking.
It's so true.
That's really cool.
And timing and rhythm. You've brought a lot of that to me and then you've mentioned a lot of how that's helped you. You haven't realized how much timing is inside of preparing a meal and being like an orchestra. You've often told me it's like you're a conductor. You're like, okay, that pot on the stove is ready to boil or needs to be, and then okay, cue the bread going into the oven,
Well,
and cue the and
That's fun. That's cool that you brought that up because I was a drum major in my marching band, and you go through that same thing of being able to listen to a whole orchestra of people and a whole band of people and kind of do that listening music wise, but to step into the kitchen with that is really,
been amazing.
that is a whole new
It's
a
been
whole new
beautiful.
level.
And that combination of the water and air, the two elements that you are,
Yeah.
when it really hits it, then it's very effervescent.
Yes.
Thank you.
But if it doesn't, it's flat.
Yeah. It's really true.
And that's
It's
pretty.
really true.
That's pretty darn rare.
And we can't really ignore it
No.
because we're working with food as consciousness.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to look into it, and,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
not always,
Fun.
pleasant. But if it's a necessary thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And Sandra, Sandra and I have made cooking an art form, and that's rare.
That's-
In lives of women, a lot of times that, like for me, I had children and I had a cottage industry, but Sandra works with more ancient, deeper things with the resonance of food. And she's shared that with you, but we, like right now you're dealing with healing, but when we need that deeper resonance, we say, come on in.
Yeah.
And
especially with meat.
yes, and she
Yes.
knows it, and
She
you don't
knows
have
meat.
to learn that all
I
at
know.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do
And
you
that's
work
been,
with
well,
that?
it's been so fun sharing that information because it's things that I just took for granted, but to know that somebody else doesn't know about it and just the little focuses and little changes that you have to make, like we were talking about cooking that whole turkey, the
Yeah.
22-pound turkey. That's a huge piece of meat to have to deal with.
Yeah.
But you took in all the information and you all moved it beautifully.
And it
Turned
came
out
out
great.
tender
It was
and
Tender,
moist
yeah.
and beautiful.
And I've learned more. I mean, I've seen things that I never saw when I would cook it because I never tried doing something that big.
Oh, okay.
So that was fun
Yeah.
to see that it really.
And we still work with meat.
Oh, yeah.
We have
That's-
still been guided to work with meat, but how much meat we work with is much less. But we also check the vibration of the giving that's held within the meat,
Yeah.
We do
And-
that with the vegetable consciousness too.
because
Yeah.
they give
They're
up
just
life
as-
too.
They're just as sentient as meat is.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so we choose everything with a vibrational consciousness. And even when we have someone pick it up, we ask for the timing and energetically the person that's going to be doing that's picking it out, and we do a pickup. We've used it so long that we know what that is, and but it's that, and you always, when you would go to the counter to look at the meat, you always knew the piece
Yeah.
that was given.
That's. And I think that when you talked about. The
That makes it
food-
easier to
yeah,
eat.
the food coming to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I never thought about that. I mean, it's like we're always looking for the food, looking for the menu. But when you said the meat or the food coming to you,
It's reaching for us.
I know.
yeah,
that's
I mean
really
that. I mean that
cool.
gives me chills because it's standing in front of the meat counter, and it's really a special time for me, and I miss it. I think that's for a while. That's why I was stopping by Shaw's or something so I could actually, because we've done so much delivery.
Yeah.
We've been doing
I wanted to
curbside
just
pickup groceries.
Pick up the grocery, and I wanted to see it and turn it around and
Feel
do all
its
that kind of
essence.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a
that's,
lot of women do this, but they're not aware of it.
yeah.
It's like a gift that that women accommodate as part of themselves when they become the one who provides the nurturance for the family. The more conscious they are of it, the more accurate they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's been part of our food as consciousness,
Yeah.
It
is
really
that we've
is.
had
I'm
to
so
relate to
thankful for
life
that.
in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even food coming to you, even if you're not cooking it or it's not for a meal, realizing things that are coming up that will fulfill our week, even like talking about getting something carry out, you know, to pop into the week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just,
And we're translating our recipes
Yeah.
differently. We're using smaller amounts of meat. We are also using the smallest amount, if not none, of sugar.
Yeah.
yes.
We're using organics, and we're using organic vegetables and organic fruits as much as we can get them. And then we're using organic flours and grains.
Have you
And-
noticed that when we went to the organic, because a lot of people think that
It is a different vibration.
it's a different vibration, it's a more expensive vibration on the market
Yeah.
a lot of times, not always anymore, but in
You don't
doing
need to
that,
eat as much of
I was
it.
going to say, it's like the fine chocolates. The more expensive chocolates, you don't need as much. And it's the quality, because it's the ingredient, the kind of ingredient that is in it, and it registers more deeply. So organics register more deeply. So even though someone may be looking at their budget and going, "Oh, this is more expensive," but you don't eat as much of it.
Right.
You eat less, and so
You're
there's
more
a balance.
satisfied.
There's a balance there
Right.
that's happening,
Right.
but you're benefiting because of the organics that it's more closely connected.
And if you're going to use meat as a vibration to ground yourself,
Right.
then you need meat that is truly willing to do that. And in our week, it's like we have lighter meals so that not so much is demanded of our bodies, and because we're creatives. But you can't not eat as a creative. You
Yes,
have to eat about every 2 hours. So it's better to eat something of a better quality than eat a big quantity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have, as our consciousness shifts, that we've been given more room in our heads for that kind of thought. And because we were all creatives in one way or another, we could utilize that realization in our creativity, whether it's working with the garden or working with our meals or working with art or working with writing or work. And it's like, and then the elements we are, it's like Sandra is that she's a Virgo, and Robert is a Gemini, and I'm a Leo, and Suzanne is a Gemini also, and Christina is a Scorpio, Cancer. And so we respect each other's elements,
Yeah.
and we allow ourselves to flow into the elementals that we can do with less stress.
Yeah.
And so we do that with our menu too, and the finding of the different, like all, the finding of the different things that we need to have in the week. We do research for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love how this turkey found us.
Yeah.
This 22-pound turkey, like, totally found us. Like, you found it out of the corner of your eye, and somehow.
Yeah,
it's got
I'm so glad that you brought it up, because that was the very thing I was just going to talk about next, was also realizing the element that things are. So, like, we've always talked about and known that turkey can never be taken from, because it's already given. And so when you take on
And that's
something
an
like
Indian
that,
insight.
a
Totemic.
totemic insight from the Indian world, and like you said, it just found us, and here it was, $12 for 22 pounds. And it just found us. I mean, I wasn't looking for it. It wasn't on our menu, and we had to pick up something, and I saw it, and we were guided to go ahead and take it and throw it in the freezer. And then when we made it, it has given us, and that's what we're kind of working with in this menu this week. There is the opportunity for at least 5 different meals,
for 5 people each
or
meal.
or
But
6
then the
meals.
leftovers for
Yeah,
other
even more
yeah.
meals.
'Cause usually everything goes for one supper and then
and
a
then
lunch.
leftovers
Yeah.
for lunches and stuff. So even more than 5 or 6 meals. So it's a gift that's going to keep on giving, and so it supported our budget. It supported our creativity because it has tons of flexibility in the different things we can make with
It's
turkey.
the highest
And
thing in
turkey
protein.
meat, it's the highest
Yeah.
of protein, which we all need as what we're moving through right now. And so it's really beautiful when you're working with consciousness that way, that as you're preparing something that you recognize all it's giving.
Wow.
And
Yes,
so
yeah.
that
That's
was really
really
cool.
cool.
In the menu
Love
planning,
that you said that.
when you're open to it as consciousness, you are really working in the future because you're working with a menu for a whole week ahead. So in that working with the menu of consciousness, where you place those things, you feel it, because some days you might not have as much creative energy flowing,
Right.
or have a kundalini really getting activated, or whereas another day that might be really in the thing, and so all at once in that menu you have a day where you have turkey or you have protein
Yeah.
in the supper meal,
Exactly.
whereas other meals you may just have vegetables.
Yeah.
You may have a vegetable meal or like onion soup, and so it goes back and forth with the consciousness
Right.
needs of what you need, but also it supplies the rich embodiment of your work.
Yes.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
So that all is in the kind of menu
Me-
planning we
yeah.
work with. But once we've done it, the week just goes.
It flows so
It
nice.
flows easy. You've already in this time, we're actually assimilating our whole week.
Yes.
We wouldn't know what to put which day if we hadn't assimilated what that
Right.
day was about.
Yeah.
And you learn to feel it. And it's a practice. It's like maybe you don't know it right away and you think that's silly, but then you intention it and it'll start coming to you of how to do that.
And the
French
time,
onion
the time
soup.
will start.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention too the synchronicity of this 22-pound turkey too, because we probably got it February 12th,
Oh,
probably,
Yeah, about a month ago.
or maybe
Maybe less.
we'll just probably. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not
whatever
sure
it
when.
was, but today is
That's the way we could go.
022022
Yeah.
with a
that we're
22-pound turkey
that we're
as we're
working
having
with it.
this conversation.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
a lot of
And-
things in
so
there.
And it was $12.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's
That's
what
what
it
it was.
Yeah.
And we probably
there's
got
a
it
lot of-
February 12th.
And
so-
we'll probably get 12 meals. out of
That's
it.
yeah,
right.
exactly. So
Or
even
more.
even that was like
Yeah. And that's another thing is that not only how you prepare your food, and then how you actually prepare the food to be helpful the rest of the week.
Yes.
And so what we do on the refrigerator, Suzanne and Christina will put a list of what's available in the refrigerator for making lunches and things like that. So you can go there and you say, oh, we got some leftover soup here. I think I'll want that. Or over here we've got tuna melts and I'll have one of those. And so everything is put in the refrigerator and is available for subsistence the next day, especially for Robert and I, if we're heavy duty in the creative and we do have more Kundalini running, we won't get to the point where we're in trouble because we haven't eaten.
And you don't
It's
have
all
to figure
available.
it out.
We don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or if you all help it and get it ready, then you don't have to say, well, would you like this? Oh yeah, then
Right.
I'll just heat it up.
And Suzanne and I, we joke about how it's like the leftovers actually become like your paints. Like if you're an
yeah.
artist, you have all these paints. Well, these leftovers are like your paints
Yeah.
because it gives
a lot
you
of
an
times
opportunity to put together maybe something new and different with what's
the
left
leftover
over. And so,
ingredients,
and that's
yeah.
another creative
Oh
opportunity,
gosh,
which
that
is
is so
really
so
true.
thank
fun to
goodness
do
for
that.
leftovers in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
so
Well-
that you can kind of keep that flow going.
One day you have mashed potatoes, the next day you have potato cakes.
That's right.
Yes, and it's like
So-
a completely
Or
different thing.
yeah, they're just. And if you have French fries, then the next day you may have
Home fries.
home fries. So it's working with what you have, because in this time now it's a time that's green. We need to utilize what we have and work with it. I think it's part of why we have enjoyed the garden so
Yeah.
much this
Yeah.
year so much.
There's
Ah.
another point that I wanted to make that I think is really important too, is that, pardon me, when we talk about needing light things, there's two different ways to see that, and a lot of people, when they think light, they're only thinking like in a health food way, or like with no, you know, added things or whatever. But there's also a lightness that we especially are looking for in the vibration, and how the lightness feels to all of us. That
It's like a levitation.
yeah,
almost,
that, and like
levity.
And
Cecilia
in that,
was
how
mentioning,
much effort.
exactly, that's what I was
was
just
it?
gonna say. What you were saying in the beginning is how much effort and energy is going to be required to make a certain food. It also is indicative of the lightness or the heaviness that it's going to carry.
Exactly.
And that's what we would be assimilating that meal if we don't look at it now when we're preparing
And it's harder
the
in the
meal.
winter.
It is.
We go to bed earlier
Yeah.
than it is. We can work with other things in the
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah, and in the summer you think light, we're going to do, we do more salads and light vegetables and light this and that and everything. But a lot of times you want that in the winter too, if you are, like you said, going to bed earlier or needing a lightness of the vibration. And sometimes the foods that sound nurturing for the winter, or they're supposedly winter foods, are not always the ones you need. So you really
it's
have
also
to
the
listen
time of day.
close. Yeah.
Is that we have some days that we have something going on that we aren't going to be able to eat until 6:30.
Yeah.
But where we really want to
4
be is like between 4:35.
Yeah.
And that we all feel the best, and it gives us time to watch a film together or talk. But we have time to digest the food.
Right.
But if we have where we're going to be later, then we need something that doesn't need as much time to digest.
Digest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to
That's a
add
good
that.
point.
Yeah. That's really
That's really good. But we're doing good.
26 minutes? Oh,
Yeah,
we're doing very
we do
good.
between 25, 30 minutes usually.
Yeah,
we can
around
do
30
whatever we
minutes.
want,
but I
but-
think that's really good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, but there is one occasion, and it was months ago, but I'm finally glad to have gotten to this point, is when we were doing, part of the time I could participate in helping with meals, cooking, or, I do one thing or something.
Right.
Okay, and that kind of changed, which is fine, but before that
That's because
actually
you broke
changed-
your arm.
Broke my arm, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But
big change.
We might
just
mention
before
that.
that, I can remember something like the croquettes, when you mentioned the croquettes, and that felt heavy. The last time I did that, it was amazing to me because it was some odd time of the day, but all of a sudden I felt it's time to make croquettes.
Mm.
And I was in there and out of there, everything cleaned up, within just a matter of less than an hour or something.
But
That
it was on the menu.
It was on the menu, but the
So all
ease
week
is
everything's
yeah, it's
preparing.
like all that food
Make that
came
opening.
and it said, okay, Sandra, now you can go in there and make the croquettes and get out of the kitchen and be everybody else,
Doing other things.
doing other things. And it was the most wonderful feeling, and it's happened on several times before that. But
Wow.
it's taken this many years to get to that level of knowing and listening
To the opening.
to the opening.
Yeah.
It was time,
Cool.
and so if it's not time, you just wait, and maybe it's a half hour before dinner, but it might come together in 10 minutes.
But because of doing an intentional menu,
Yeah.
that also creates
There's a preparation all week to get there.
Oh,
right.
to get
And so
there.
when that opening happens, it's because
all
of the time that we spent
Yeah.
together creating something
Yeah.
which we knew would give that
Yeah.
lift or levity
But it's
to.
it's just such a blessing to be able to do it.
So there was
all
a
the years of being
consciousness
on a
in that.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
The food had a consciousness and
And the timing.
the timing and told
And
me
your
it was time.
awareness.
Yeah,
But when you hear it, that is also your awareness.
yes.
It's your hearing. It's your ability to hear consciousness.
And syncing up with it.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I love that.
Syncing up with it. Well, sweetie,
That was a
Thank
very
you.
good
That was
tabletop
very good.
Thank you. That was
theater
fun.
conversation.
And
Yes.
even though we didn't make a lot of menu planning in it, we have kind of realized that this is kind of
Shared with you how
Yeah,
how,
that's part
what
of
the
the week.
process.
Yeah.
was sharing this. This is part of the menu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for
So
listening.
welcome to dinner at our dinner theater.
Yeah. And we will talk to you again soon
Yeah.
with the next conversation.
Yeah.